Welcome to the Uncle's channel. Thanks for watching today. And I know I'm a little bit behind on this video, but today we're going to go through the Elden Ring Books of Knowledge Volume 2, Shards of the Shattering. Now, we did Volume 1, The Lands Between, I guess like almost a year ago maybe. They're pretty slow on getting these particular books out. This one came out I think about a month and a half ago, and I'm just now getting around to actually going through and taking a full video review of it here. But these videos are from Future Press, and if you don't know much about like strategy guides like currently on the market, some strategy guides aren't really worth your money. You know, you can find most information on the internet, things like that. But Future Press Elden Ring guides are phenomenal, or Future Press guides in general are phenomenal. The paper quality, top notch. The research behind the books, top notch. The ability to hold their value beyond top notch. These Future Press books often go way up in value because the books don't stay in print pretty much forever. They do have a couple runs to print and then they call it quits on it, and the value of the books just sort of skyrocket from there. You can look back on like Bloodborne books and Dark Souls books just to see like how much the value truly does go up. But today we're gonna go through the Elden Ring Shards of the Shattering, look at every single page in the book together, and do a quick little evaluation and review and discussion as we go. But let's go ahead and dive into the actual book. Alright, so we have an excellent cover here of Queen Marika herself in the center, Shards of the Shattering, Elden Ring, Books of Knowledge, Volume 2, and look at the high quality craftsmanship of this particular product. Now when you order it, you actually get a free gift, which I did not know about until I opened it earlier, but you get 4 prints here of different areas from around the Lands Between. And these are just simply high quality screen capture of different areas that you would explore inside the game. And I had no idea that you got a nice little free gift when you purchased the book. Now when you flip the page over here, you do get a forward or an introduction here from the Team Future Press, people who made the book, and they sort of talk about like what's included in the guide, as well as saying like Elden Ring is a game that will always be patched or updated, and so the information in this guide here is as evergreen as they could possibly make it. So as the years go by and they continue to patch the game, this guide is still going to be useful. Now over here we have the icon legend, which shows the item types, the status elements, the affinities, and then on this page it shows more of a breakdown exactly what's included inside the book, such as like chapter 1 is your combat guide, chapter 2 is your Beastiary, chapter 3 is your armaments and equipment, chapter 4 your extras, and then it finishes the book up with an interview from Miyazaki himself, which is very interesting. And then we have a table of contents over here, which sort of breaks down a little bit further exactly what's included in every chapter. But we'll get to all that and more as we journey through our guide here. Now chapter 1 is the combat guide, and I adore the painting that they put in here for the Lands Between. They could have easily done a screenshot here from the game itself, but they chose to have a painting done for this particular book, and I love this painting. I actually wish they put this painting in here as one of the free prints that we got when we ordered the game. However, you know, beggars can't be choosers, and so at least we got it inside the guide itself. Now, chapter 1 is the combat guide, and this is the most boring chapter inside the book here. It just sort of goes over the basic movement types and different spell types and different stats, and you know, basically how to play the game, a tutorial of sorts. And if you want to skip this, I'll put a timestamp down below, and you can skip straight to the Beastiary, which goes over the far more interesting parts, such as like all the different enemies inside the game. But the chapter here starts off with a lexicon of terms, goes over all the PvE in general terms, PvP specific terms, and I did upload this video in 4K quality, so you can zoom in and investigate any of this as much as you would like. And I try to get the glare out as good as possible as well, so feel free to pause the video and investigate all that you want. But we're going to continue on here, and I'm not going to read every single line inside the book. But it talks about a combat guide here. We have PvE and PvP. We got our stats here. Tells you all your different stats. It tells you your optimal stats as far as like what your best stats to upgrade are, what the optimal levels are for those. And then it goes over here and talks about the soft caps and the hard caps. And I am so glad they include this in the guide, because anytime I play a From Software game, one of the first things I look up are what are the soft caps and what are the hard caps, so you know where your stats are going for diminishing returns and things like that. Now as we continue on here, it talks about specifically what every single one of the stats does, and also something I think is fascinating here, they also give you items that show you what can increase that stat if you don't want to level that stat up. So if you're doing like a no level up run, or you're just simply doing a rune level 1 run, and you don't want to upgrade any stats but you want to actually have the effects, you can equip these particular items, and you can actually make your character a good bit stronger and basically carry whichever weapons that you want to carry. And so it goes through and shows you for that for every single one of the stats, goes through and shows all your secondary stats as well as items that can be used to upgrade those secondary stats. Very helpful. Then goes through the movement here, such as walking, sprinting, rolling. And I know you're thinking like, who needs an explanation of how to walk in the game? And that's probably true, but that just goes to show like how exhaustive and how like in-depth these particular guides are when it comes to basically covering everything the game has to offer. But when it talks about rolling here, this is actually important because it does show your roll iframes and like your equipment load percentage, and when it swaps over to like different roll types and your iframes and your recovery, that is beneficial right there. And also, I love the screenshot they have down here. It looks like something out of Sekiro, but the screenshots are all very high quality inside the book as well. Talks about backsteps, jumping, crouching, stealth mechanics, your combat, your light attacks, your heavy attacks, or strong attacks in the game, your blocking, your melee combat, your spell casting. And I know I'm going fast, but this is the most boring chapter in the game. And like I said, feel free to pause it at any given time as we're going through here. Talks about your damage types and special weaknesses. Goes through physical damage, slash damage, all of those. Is poison on there? I don't see poison. I guess poison would be more of like a status ailment instead of damage type here. But it goes through and talks about all your different damage types. Ailment right here. And poison, there it is, poison. Man, if you watch my channel much and you followed any of my tutorials, you know that I love my poison and scarlet rot inside the game. Talks about how to buff your weapons and debuffs such as that. A really beneficial part here, it goes through and tells you every single item that you can pick up inside the game, exactly what type of item it is, what requirements are for it, as well as like the different effects and how long the effects last. Excellent guide here for every single item. Talks about defensive attacks, when to heal, when to deflect. Goes through the understanding stance and poise. That's very beneficial if you are doing PvP. Obviously, can do it for some PvE, but PvP really focuses on a lot of that. And speaking of, here comes PvP combat. Talks about when it comes to online equipment trading, optimal stats for PvP. That's very important because a lot of people over-level their character to the point that they can't even get matched up with anybody anymore. And my guess is the reason this book took so long to come out is because they want to talk about the Colosseums and actually have a part about PvP. Because if you are playing PvP, you are probably playing in the Colosseum, at least at this point inside the game, or at least this point in time. Now, Chapter 2, the Beastiary, is definitely the more interesting chapter here. A great picture here from Godric the Grafted, his overall boss arena. And the Beastiary is going to go through every single boss, every single enemy, every single possible creature going to encounter in the game. They better go over the turtles. I want to see the turtles included in this chapter. But they go through here, they talk about different enemy categories, different enemy families. I mean, it's like a biology book here, like different kingdoms and different families. I mean, is this Elden Ring or is this biology class we're talking about here? But they go through all of this. Oh no, look at that. That is a little mess up inside my book. I expect a little bit better from future press here, but obviously very minor mistake. Still love the book. I'm just pointing out, even the greatest publishers of all time, they make mistakes. But we go through and we talk about different boss fights against multiple enemies, the best tactics to use as you're going through here, when you use different skills such as that. And now we're going to get into actually every single enemy inside the game. And it looks like they're dividing it up as far as like the easier enemies first, maybe, or maybe it's the enemies that you encounter first inside the game. Because we start off with the commoners here, and of course the commoner is one of the easiest enemies you would ever encounter. We have a Godric's foot soldiers. Continuing on here, then we have Godric's soldiers and soldier of Godric, and I'm not going to read every single enemy here. I'll sort of scroll through fairly quickly, but you can see, like, they go through and they talk about all the different locations that they're at. They talk about different status ailments. They talk about what they can possibly drop, what their drop percentages are for all of this. Like, I love they put so much detail into every one of these enemies in the game. And so we got the giant rats. Man, I forgot about the giant rats. That reminds me more of like Dark Souls 2 than it does Elden Ring. We got the hawks with their little blades on their feet. Who else we got? We got the miners. We got the wolves. Man, the wolves could be a real nuisance as you're going. They could take you out faster than some of the main enemies in the game. We got the skeletons here, and there's a ton of variations on the skeletons. I'm sure that's considered a family or a kingdom in the game. Oh my gosh, the stray hounds. I take back what I said about the wolves. The stray hounds were the worst part of it. And they look like they're something like straight out of Bloodborne too, now to think about it. The demi-humans, of course we encounter those. I did not know that was called a land squirt. That's fascinating. The imps, I did not enjoy the imps. I guess I am reading all of them, aren't I? I said I wasn't going to, but I guess it appears that I am. Larval land octopuses. I guess I thought they had a better name than just something so obvious. Miranda sprouts, the claymen. Miranda sprouts, that was a pretty tough one. Exile soldiers, baby crabs is the giant crab. I guess, like I said, I guess it's ordered that you'll encounter them. So the giant crabs will be a little bit later. Putrid corpses, misbegotten. Now that would be a boss. So are they including bosses at this point in the game? Or are they waiting on that? The man bat. I have to say, every time I encountered a man bat, it made me think back to that Batman episode with the man bat. Page and High Page, the Mausoleum Foot Soldier, the Headless Horseman, evidently, the Mausoleum Soldiers in general, the Writhing Rot Mounds. Man, that's an interesting name. Meteorite Scavenger, Guardians. I have to say, like, I am almost just enjoying this to the point of seeing what the actual names of all of these different enemies are inside the game. Marionette Soldiers, Revenant Follower, Rot Disciples. Some of these almost feel like they're a little bit repeated, but they're not. They're actually separate. Ancestral Followers. There's actually 2 different genders for that too. They really went through and thought all of this out. Little Living Jars. Not a living jar, a little living jar. Albinarix? That's how I'm going to say it. I could be wrong on that. Rhea Lucaria Foot Soldier. All right, I'm not going to read through all of these. I'm just sort of going to go through and hit sort of the high points as we get to them. The Winged Misbegotten, I remember that. This one's just called Guilty. Practitioners of Thorn Sorcery considered heretical by the Academy of Lucaria. These foes are most commonly found in the company of fire monks. So I guess they are guilty of the church and they have been thrown out. The Finger Creepers. That always reminded me of something from The Legend of Zelda. The Elder, oh my gosh, that same word again. Albinarix, I'm going to assume. Ooh, the snails, or the snake snails. Those were awesome in the game. I love the ones with the actual skull. That was, man, this makes me want to play the entire game all over again. And I know I say about like every time I go through one of these guides, but it really does make me want to just load the game up and go through the game all over again. Oh my gosh, that's directly out of Dark Souls. They didn't even like hide it. They just simply lifted the enemy directly out of Dark Souls and placed it in this game. Man, now that's creepy looking. The Rot Larvae. See, now this right here is just making the book like completely worth the money to me. You could put this on a coffee table. You can just sit down, you know, flip through this book, find all kinds of stuff, you know, read about it. Like, this is the ultimate coffee table book, in my opinion. I enjoyed Volume 1. Volume 1 was good. Volume 2, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Volume 2 is better, and if for nothing else, it gives you the lore, the strategy, the drop rates, an amazing picture, amazing screenshots. This allows you to relive the game by just simply flipping through this book. The operatic, probably saying it completely wrong. I know it's opera. Operatic, I'm going to say operatic bat. Those things were awesome in the game. I'm not sure what they were singing. I think it was in Latin maybe, but that was fascinating. The abductor virgins, I remember them. You can get a little rock and hide away from them. I'm pretty sure that's the same image for the giant rats earlier. Now look at that, giant rat large. That seems to be a little bit on the repetitive side if I ever saw it. The elder lion, the living jar, the flame chariots. Boy, weren't they a real something to mess with in the game. This is fascinating. The depraved perfumers. I'm going to assume they were shooting stuff out at you. Oh my gosh, that is the most haunting creature inside the game. Those were crazy. I remember, like, is this one over here? That picture might have been released before the game. I almost think it was. It was like a leaked photo for Elden Ring. The Finger Creeper again. Must be a different variation of it. Some of these are obviously, you know, a little bit variations as you go. The giant crow. Oh man, now we're getting into the land of the rot. Giant dogs. Man, this is such good stuff. Oh man, Worm Face. I'd like to know some more about the lore of Worm Face. I'm going to come back for that in a little bit. And I like how, like, when it has a boss variant of that particular enemy, they actually tell you about that boss variant. Oh man, we got the man serpents over here. That looked like something out of like He-Man and Masters of the Universe. The giant crayfish. Around here we got a lot of crayfish. Kindred of Rot. Man, the first time I encountered them, those were wicked in the game. Ancient dragons. Oh yes, the first boss or first enemy you really fight in the game. Stone digger trolls. Tree sentinel. Patches. I forget about Patches in the game. Yeah, he was there, all right. Black Knife Assassin. Oh my gosh. There he is. One of the hardest bosses in the entire game when you fight him at the very end. The cheese method really works great on him, and they never did fix it either. They've never patched that particular one. The Tibia Mariner. Oh yes, the Erdtree Burial Watchdog. Classic enemy. Flying Dragons, there's a few different ones of those. And oh yes, we got a lot of boss variants on these fellas. Grave Worn Duelist. Yep, we got a boss variant for him too. A lot of these boss variants are just simply, did you encounter them in a cave? Because a lot of the bosses did end up being just sort of cave bosses. But man, it made for a exciting cave exploration. That was one thing like I got tired in, like, you know, Breath of the Wild. You go into a cave, you go into a dungeon, and what do you get? You get a puzzle. And you're like, another puzzle. But you go into Elden Ring, you go into a cave, you get to the end of it, you got yourself a full-blown boss fight. And not just that, a fun boss fight, and you get some amazing loot out of it at the same time. Man, these are just quality. That's all I can say. This is just quality. The Spirit Collar Snail. That is slick looking. I like that. I like that. The Magma Worms. Oh yes, I remember the first one that you encounter. There it is. The first one you encounter. That was quite the doozy. Quite the doozy when you first see him. Oh my gosh, oh yes, the Death Right Birds. Those are going to be the much more harder ones to come across. Easy to cheese, but much harder to come across. Oh yes, your Mimic Tier. When you finally get your Mimic Tier, you've basically got the game beat, is what it feels like. Now we're getting into some of the bosses. It feels like more in general, maybe. I'm still not exactly sure how they've like organized this particular game or this particular guide here, because it seems like it's in order of like what you encounter. But now it just seems like we're getting into like just straight out bosses. And so, oh my gosh, I remember the first time I encountered him, it was in that, at the very beginning of the game. You go through, you put your 2 little stones in those locations or whatnot, your lock keys, and you go through there and you finally get to the bottom of that little maze, and he's down there and he just demolishes you. Like you don't stand a chance against him. The Godskin Apostle. Oh yes, the other Godskin Apostle. Hey, they actually get their own separate pages. Isn't that cool? Oh yes, I remember the first time. You can still cheese this boss. That's crazy. They've never patched that out either. And obviously you can look at the date of the filming of this video to know when things were cheesed and when things were patched and when things were not patched. But man, I want to go through the game again. This has got me wanting to literally load the game up right now and play through it. This is going to be one of the books that will not stay on the shelf behind me anywhere near as long as like the Armored Core one or some of the Dark Souls ones. This has got so much information in it and so many different enemies and so many different bosses. Like you can put this on your table and you can just thumb through this at any time. Oh yes, Margit the Fell Omen. Your first true challenge in the game. That's when I first realized, hey, I want to do a lot of poison in this game. Godric the Grafted. Oh yeah. Now we're into the bosses. So I guess what we were looking at earlier were some of the smaller enemies. And we are definitely into the straight out bosses here. And so we got, once again, the preparation, what you need to do before it, the environment that you're fighting in. Man, that's such a wicked looking creature. So like, man, like that's just so cool. They did, whoever designed the, was in charge of like character design for this game went above and beyond. It really is like they mixed Dark Souls and Bloodborne together is the way I sort of feel about, you know, how they came across their creatures and bosses for this game. Oh man, the Fire Giant. Who doesn't remember the first time they went up against a Fire Giant? Hey, there are 2 versions of him as you went through it. Oh, well, Lord of Blood and the Omen. Which one was the harder one? I think it was the Omen was the harder one, I believe. Oh, Melania. That is one that everyone says is the hardest one in the game. I don't know, Dragon Lord was pretty rough. To me, the hardest boss in the entire game was probably the Elden Beast. That's the one that probably took me the longest to actually defeat. And here we go. We got the Radagon, and then the hardest, the Elden Beast, in all of his glory there. He's look, immune, everything. Yeah, trust me, I realized that as I was playing the game. Special enemies. Oh yes, these are the ones that like actually drop things for you. Oh, the Wandering Mausoleums. You know what I haven't seen yet? I've not seen the turtle. Wait. Oh my gosh, I spoke too soon. We got the turtle. There he is. We got the turtle. We got all the wildlife. I actually like that they put that in its own little category here of all the wildlife that you could encounter in the game. There was a certain guilt that went with killing any of that wildlife. The armaments and equipment. Wow, what a desolate, desolate landscape. Chapter 3, Armament and Equipment. And so here we go. Let's take a look at it. This is also what many people bought this particular guide for, is just simply to see what every single weapon in the game, what their stats are, exactly how long it takes to, well, not how long, exactly what their damage ratio is for it, exactly what is upgrades. Oh my gosh, everything, the scaling's in here, everything you could ever want for information on weapons is right here. You got your straight swords, and once again, if you want to pause this at any given time, feel free to pause the video. You can read these in much greater detail. Like I said, I tried to upgrade it to the highest quality that I could possibly not upgrade it, upload it in the highest quality that I possibly could. And so I like that they actually included the details about the weapons as well. So if you were like actually wanted to do like some lore on this game and you wanted to dive deep into it, you don't have to collect everything in the game anymore. You don't have to go through it and, you know, scavenge to find it all. You can just simply buy this book, read about it, and you can get your lore down pat. Obviously, you'll miss out on the fun of collecting it, but hey, sometimes you just want to find out something pretty quick, and this is the best way to go about finding out about it. We are on page 272, guys, and there's like 400 pages in this book. We still have quite a ways to go. Hey, we finally got to the predetermined bookmark for the game. There's a definite milestone. Look at that hop. That fella is hopping with that ripple blade. Holy cow. So many weapons. And you know what's sad? Like, you go through the game and like you find one you like and like you stick with it for like 90% of the game. I know I did. I found a weapon I liked. I went with the Blasphemous Blade. And when I got that Blasphemous Blade going, like there was no turning back. I didn't need no Great Club or Rotten Staff or, you know, Clayman's Harpoon. I didn't need none of this. I had my Blasphemous Blade, and that was all I needed. That was all I needed for this game. But it's still fun to look at all the rest of them. If you ever want to do a different run, it's fun to sort of go in and know like which direction you want to go in if you went that way. Oh my gosh, the bow run. People have done like bow runs on this game, and those look fascinating, like defeating the entire game by just using a bow. And I barely used a bow at all in the game, but if I wanted to, this would be the way to do it. Same thing for staffs. I didn't use a whole lot of staffs in the game either. Sacred, oh my gosh, this is where the seals come into play. Now I did use some seals here. All your different shields that you can have. You know what I've not seen? I've not seen like the dragon church yet. We're talking about like all the dragon weapons. I don't think I missed it, but we're in the shields right now. And so a ton of different shields. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss a single page. I don't think I have. I don't think I've missed a single page. I'm trying not to. Oh, the armor. Here we go. Now the armor. Now my favorite armor set. Now I didn't ever use like a full like all one armor set. I'm not like that. I like to mix it up a little bit. And one of my favorite things to have was this little floppy hat. Now we got to find that floppy hat. It's in here somewhere. It's got to be part of one of the sets here. That's close. But the Godric Foot Soldier does not have my floppy hat. Mine looks like some sort of outlaw or some sort of westerner, you know, out there parading the Wild West, herding all the cattle, taking out all the gunslingers and all the bullies in town. That was my character. But I cannot find it anywhere. People have asked me like, oh, wait. That's it. The Perfumer's Traveler set. That's the hood I had. I never would have thought that my badass hood would have just been called the Perfumer Traveler set. But there it is. Man, I did not realize like there were so many options for your helmets. And I did not know you could wear the Scarab's body as a hood either. Or a helmet either. That is all news to me. Continuing on here, I knew you could have the pumpkin head. Alright, your talismans. Now there were a lot of talismans. You know, as I'm looking through this, like this covers so much in this particular guide. Like it's hard to imagine. There's a second volume, but volume 1, that goes through and talks about like all the different maps and all the different, you know, landscapes you can explore. This one here, I think for the most part, is going to be your more beneficial one to have. And here's all your sorceries and whatnot. This is where we're going to get into like the dragon spells. Almost certainly. Man, like you can literally go through this entire game and not even scratched the surface of all different ways to play it. I think like everybody who played the game, unless they're like following some sort of guide or something, they could literally have a entirely different playthrough. Like everyone who loaded the game up, unless you're like following the guide or playing with a friend or something, you're gonna have an entirely different experience going through the game, just trying to figure out, you know, which direction you want to go. There's my poison mist. Heck yeah. Frenzy flamed incantations. Now here we go. Dragon communion incantations. This is what I'm talking about. I adored those. Where's my favorite one? Oh yes, Rod and Breath. That's it. One of the best in the game. Ashes of War. Now these are all your little skills that you can have to really help you through the game. And so there are, my gosh, I don't even know how many there are. There's got to be hundreds of them. I mean, we're just in the very beginning part here, and you can see. And so like if you were curious, like, you know, very first play in the game, like which Ashes of War I want to use, which ones do I want to focus on, this right here, it gives you so much information. You can sort of plan out your playthrough. I think I skipped a page. I did not skip a page. I just want to make sure I don't for anybody who's actually wanting to see every single page in this particular guide. Unique skills. What every single skill that you can have for your different weapons. Obviously some weapons repeat, but you know, different skills are going to be equipped throughout the game here. Alright, your spirit ashes. Now these are the ones that were fascinating to me. I loved from the very get-go being able to have your summons to help you through the game. And I know some people say like, no, you're not supposed to use a summon. You're supposed to do everything on your own. Well guys, look, we have an entire section devoted to something that the game included. So they clearly meant for you to use these summons in the game. If you choose not to, obviously you can make the game harder. You can do your own, you know, your own path there. But hey, for the majority of us, you know, we liked our summons. There's the Mimic Tier. Mimic Tier is one of the all-time best that you could possibly get as you're going through here. Different items. We got different tools. Sacred Flask. Oh my gosh, I remember all of them. All your different flasks that you can have as you go. Oh my gosh. It's just amazing. Oh, your rune arcs. I forgot about that. Your meats and medicines. Soap. You know, I do not remember soap in the game. I'll acknowledge that's something that's new for me. I do not remember having soap inside the game. I guess my character was just a filthy little character as I went through. Here's all your pots that you can use. We're on page 445. We are working our way through it. I guess I can set that side down. I don't need to hold it anymore. You know, it's, you know, so heavy on that side. Your perfumes, consumable weapons, your different daggers and whatnot, your darts, I mean. Oh man, now we're getting into the arrows, your ammunition. Different types of arrows, all of that. Your steed whistle. Oh yeah. Now we're getting into this like some of the regular old stuff. Your shackles. I mean, who didn't use a shackle when going up against Margit and whatnot? Different gestures. I didn't use a lot of gestures in the game. I'll acknowledge. I'm not a big gesture guy. Not big on that. Consumable runes, remembrances. Holy cow. Toxic mushroom. Here's your plant products. Miscellaneous. Not many miscellaneous is on there. You know, they should have a section on like cut content. That would be pretty legit. They don't, but that would be pretty legit if they did. Have an entire section devoted to just that. Oh, here we go. Here's your upgradable materials. Figure out how you need to upgrade your stuff. Oh, quest and NPC items. My gosh, the quest. Some of those quests were so hard to figure out if you didn't look up. Your cookbooks. Oh yes, we all needed a good cookbook in the game. We all had to have a good cookbook. Different maps you can use. Obviously you have to have a map anytime you want to explore an area effectively. Notes and letters. Does it actually say what the letters show? No, they don't. They could have done that. Extras. Here we go with the extras. Another beautiful painted picture. Personally, I like the first one, but this is another excellent one. I'll give it to them. Advanced builds. Oh my gosh, this is cool. It gives you like an idea. What was this chapter called? Extras. Okay. It gives you an idea of like if you want to do a specific build, how to go about it. Now that is really handy. Now personally, I like to sort of forge my own way, But if you want to, you know, focus on a certain build, here gives you a base idea of like the stats you're going to need, the spells you're going to need, the pros and cons to this particular build. And man, very, very cool. Very, very cool. And different like options for every type of build too. So it's not just like, here's, you know, your arcane builds and that's it. No. Oh man, New Game Plus. Now I love New Game Plus stuff. Features carried over, features not carried over. That is highly important before you start your new game, that you know exactly what to do, what carries over. Because you don't want to go in there and like lose some stuff like you were really expecting to have. And so, oh man, it goes through like all the stats and such for it too. Now that is cool. And it goes through a New Game Plus 2 through a plus 7 there. Trophies and achievements. Wow. Very cool. All your different trophies here, how to achieve them. And then we got the interview down here in the back. Oh my gosh. And look at, oh man, look at it. So many cool painted pictures to go along with the interview here. These are phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, the interview itself, interesting. But some of the stuff they included with that are almost equally interesting. Equally interesting. Wow, that's a really, really long interview. And so, and then we got the index back here. You can go through, if you want to look up anything, you can just simply find it in the index, and you know exactly which page that you want to flip to, and you know, rediscover or do more research on that particular area. Holy cow. And then we have the final credits down here at the end, 2023. Wow, guys. Fantastic book. Fantastic. I definitely say better than Volume 1. Do I think you need both of them? Yeah, good in both. They're both very good books. But Volume 2, much better than Volume 1, and I cannot wait to put it on the coffee table. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.